The atmosphere in the human deep space mining outpost, Frontier, was thick with dread. On the main view screen, the Xylthar fleet loomed. Their ships were sleek, obsidian constructs, designed for stealth and absolute precision. They communicated not with radio waves, but with highly focused, internal sonic pulses, a network of synchronized thought and action that made their formations unbreakable. They were silent, deadly, and utterly efficient. High Arbiter Xylos, a towering figure of crystalline exoskeleton, projected his image onto the Frontier's bridge. His voice, a series of perfectly modulated clicks and hisses, translated into chillingly calm words, resonated through the tense silence. "Humans," Xylos began, his multifaceted eyes unblinking. "Your presence at the periphery of Xylthar space is a chaotic anomaly. Your broadcast signals, loud and unfiltered, offend the precision of our domains. We offer you one cycle to cease all operations and withdraw. Failure to comply will result in your immediate, silent, and complete erasure." Commander Valerius, head of security for the Frontier outpost, felt the cold certainty in Xylos's words. The Xylthar didn't bluff. Their fleet was known as the Whispering Death. They approached without warning, executed maneuvers with impossible synchronization, and struck with devastating, soundless accuracy. Their technology was built on perfect sonic resonance, both for propulsion and communication. Our standard military protocols wouldn't even detect their ships until they were already firing. "Erase us," Valerius muttered, a grimace on his face. "Their entire fleet operates on a single, silent frequency. Our comms can't even get a lock to jam them." Dr. Jian Li, the outpost's resident xenolinguist and a self-proclaimed sound enthusiast, stepped forward. He was a man more comfortable with ancient human musical instruments than star charts, but his eyes held an unusual spark. "Commander," he began, his voice surprisingly steady, "they are not silent. They are deaf to anything but their own perfect harmony. And that, I believe, is their weakness." Valerius turned to him, an eyebrow raised. "Doctor, they communicate through bioacoustic thought transference across their fleet. It's instantaneous, lossless. There's no interference, no noise as we understand it. It's a symphony of pure command." Lee nodded, a faint smile touching his lips. "Precisely, a symphony. And what happens to a perfect symphony when you introduce an entirely discordant, chaotic, utterly alien sound?" Valerius stared, then scoffed. "You propose to fight an advanced alien fleet with noise. Not just noise, Commander. Human noise. The kind of noise that defies all their concepts of order, rhythm, and logic. A cacophony designed to rip apart their perfect sonic web." Lee gestured to the outpost's repurposed deep space mineral scanners. "These can be modified. We can project not just sound, but anti-sound asterisk. Pure, unfiltered, unpredictable auditory chaos. A weaponized, discordant frequency that will overwhelm their hypersensitive internal communication and targeting systems." Valerius considered it. It was insane. It went against every tactical doctrine he knew, but they had no other option. "You have one cycle, Doctor. Make your noise." Over the next 24 hours, Dr. Lee and his team of bewildered technicians turned the Frontier outpost into a giant, experimental sonic emitter. They stripped down comms arrays, rerouted power to the deep scanning dishes, and even incorporated old audio equipment from the crew's recreation lounge. Lee himself oversaw the construction of the Chaos Composer, a console cobbled together from scavenged parts, complete with oversized dials and analog feedback loops. It was less a weapon and more a monstrous, interstellar instrument of discord. "Think of it as the inverse of perfect pitch, Commander," Lee explained, twisting a large dial. "We're going to give them a headache so profound, it'll make them forget how to fight." The Xylthar fleet returned exactly on schedule, emerging from hyperspace in their signature, silent formation. High Arbiter Xylos's image once again filled the Frontier's viewscreen. "Humans, your foolish defiance is concluded. Prepare for silent erasure." His crystalline exoskeleton pulsed with cold, hard certainty. "Commence primary purge sequence. Maintain perfect synchronicity." As the Xylthar ships began to align their energy projectors, Dr. Lee took a deep breath. "Now," he murmured, pressing a large, red button. From the Frontier outpost, a wave of sound erupted. It wasn't a roar, not a blast. It was a cacophony so utterly alien to the Xylthar's precise sonic senses that it defied all logic. It was a symphony of static, a chorus of broken frequencies, a jarring medley of scraped metal, distorted human laughter, feedback loops, and pure, unfiltered white noise. It was every sound that should not exist in harmony, amplified a millionfold, and projected directly into the Xylthar's internal bioacoustic network. On the bridge of the lead Xylthar destroyer, Commandant Arthar's faceted eyes widened. He heard nothing externally, but within his consciousness, his internal communications, his very thoughts, were being assaulted by noise. Not the predictable, categorizable noise of a failing engine, but a chaotic, random, utterly illogical torrent of auditory garbage. His perfectly synchronized mental commands to his crew shattered. His targeting solutions, which relied on precise sonic triangulation, became a blur of chaotic echoes. Panic, a concept alien to the Xylthar's ordered minds, rippled through their fleet. Ships, whose movements were coordinated by precise internal sonic pulses, began to drift. Their targeting systems, overwhelmed by the constant, unpredictable barrage of anti-sound, locked onto friendly vessels. Energy projectors, meant to converge on the human outpost, fired wildly into empty space, or worse, into the hulls of their own allies. Confusion. Xylos's thought resonated through the Xylthar network, raw and unmodulated, a desperate click of fear. "Their primitive emissions. It is a plague on our senses. Our perfect harmony. It is dissolving into cacophony." Commandant Arthar screamed, not aloud, but in the private torment of his bombarded mind. His ship, once a perfectly controlled extension of his will, now veered left, then right, then crashed into an adjacent cruiser that was also flailing wildly. It wasn't an explosion, but a grinding, chaotic collision of two perfectly designed ships, their internal systems tearing themselves apart under the overwhelming pressure of illogical sound. High Arbiter Xylos watched in horror from the silent blade. His fleet, the embodiment of precision, was shattering. Not from plasma fire, not from kinetic impacts, but from a constant, irritating, maddening asterisk noise that his species literally could not comprehend. It was like trying to debug a perfect program by shouting random numbers at the computer. The Xylthar, who had never known true chaos, were being undone by it. "Withdraw!" Xylos shrieked, a series of frantic, desperate clicks that were more animalistic than logical. "Break formation, flee the cacophony." Dr. Jian Li, sweat dripping down his face, watched the Xylthar fleet scatter. Ships colliding, weapons firing erratically, their perfect formation dissolving into a panicked, uncoordinated retreat. He finally released the main projector. Silence. Valerius stared at the viewscreen, then at Li, his mouth agape. "Doctor," he said, his voice a low whisper, "what in the stars was that?" Li simply smiled, a tired but triumphant grin. That, Commander, was the sound of 1 billion years of human chaos, finally finding its target. High Arbiter Xylos, after the harrowing retreat, never again threatened humanity with silent erasure. The memory of the chaotic, unmaking noise from the frontier outpost haunted the collective consciousness of the Xylthar. They had encountered species with greater firepower, with stronger defenses, but never one whose very existence, whose very method of communication, was so utterly alien to their ordered minds that it could be weaponized against them. They sent probes, they observed, but they never again approached humanity with anything but the utmost caution. For the first time in their long, silent history, the Xylthar began to study chaos, trying desperately to understand the unpredictable anomaly that was the human mind. And humanity, the noisy, chaotic, unpredictable species, continued their expansion, knowing that sometimes the most devastating weapon wasn't what you fired, but what you refused to silence.